Hi guys, so like I said in one of my videos, after Austin posted this on his community wall, a lot of people, responded by pointing out that because this is, a Senegalese girl, that he would soon would call this girl opportunist or gold digger because that's what he does. He has been doing to all the African girls that he brings in on his show. I mean, the first time they are on the show, he will shower them with praise. He will claim they were not after his money. He will claim they were traditional and everything, and then a few weeks later, that he will call them opportunists, or he will call them gold diggers, and that is what the comments are pointing. And I was actually happy to see that because Austin's supporters rarely push back on his excess, on all the bad things he does. So I was happy. But then I something made me even happier, which is this comment on his live.
I will, thank you very much. I will officially be going to Cape Verde. Dude, don't go to my country. I don't know what you talking about. I ain't never been disrespectful to no woman.
And you guys have to realize, he barely started the live before this person basically told him not to go to his African country, because Africans are now, his African supporters are now realizing that, this guy is no good. They are telling him to get the hell out of Africa. And that is, I mean, it makes me so happy, and it is a dramatic change from how his African followers used to respond to him. Let's be honest. His African supporters are actually defend him much more strongly than his Black American male supporters do. To be honest, in fact, the reason I created this channel is because when I was going to his comment section and criticizing him, the Africans would come back and attack me. It used to break my heart because it's not I would expect the Black American male viewers would be the ones to push back on me, but it was actually the Africans calling me jealous, telling me that Austin was doing more for Africa than me. An African was telling me that Austin was doing so good, so much good for African image. They claiming that he was showing positive side of Africa, and I'm like, you guys know that I think like that whole the Africa they don't show you thing. I think of it as white worship. You are trying to impress white people when you don't have to. But that's I used to get a pushback. I used to be attacked by his African followers. Even now, I mean, on my comment, a lot of the people who come to my comment and, to support uh, Austin are Africans, unfortunately. So it is a really good thing to see that African followers, his African subscribers, now telling him to get the hell out, now being fed up with him. And I think what this is a result of what made Africans so fed up with him is that tweet where he said 80% of the girls in the African girls he were dating were below his standard. He compared African girls to Brazilian girls, and he said the Brazilian girls were they were, I guess they were on his standard, but the African girls were way below his standard, and that insulted so many Africans, that offended Africans, so many Africans. And I don't even think Austin realized that, because Austin is such a self-centered egomaniac. He probably doesn't realize how offensive that is, how many people that tweet. And remember, he didn't just tweet it. He doubled down and posted it on his community wall, and then tripled down and had a live where he said, yes, I mean it. I mean that, the African girls are not really on my standard, that they are way below my standard. I mean, that's what that whole live was about, reaffirming his tweet that the African girls were below his standard. And and he also said like something like, if this offends you, it's because you are an African girl who is below my standard, or something like that.
So for the women that are offended, if you feel like you are below what my standards may be, which you don't know my standards, well, you may know if you've been following me long enough. If you feel like you are offended, then that's on. If the shoe fits, that's on you.
So yeah, and when he said that, when he decided to double down, triple down on that offensive tweet, I think he lost so many of his supporters. He finally a lot of his supporters, his African supporters, were able to see his true colors, were able to see that he looks down on Africa, he looks down on Africans. And if it was not clear from, from the way he doubled down and tripled down on that insult, it must be even clearer now from the way he is, he has been acting the last 2 weeks, which is, taking every opportunity he has to insult Africans. So yeah, and I think that has finally, made all his supporters, his African supporters, see, open their eyes, see him for who he really is, which is someone who looks down on Africans, someone who looks down on Africa, someone who believes that he being present in Africa is a favor to Africa. Being in Africa, him being in Africa is something that Africans should be grateful about. So yeah, so finally, the Africans, a lot of Africans are, finally waking up to, to who he really is. Me, I have been, it took me probably like 3 weeks for me to realize what kind of person this guy was. I mean, he did fool me for a few weeks, but it didn't take me that long to to see through him. And like I said, it's his mouth getting him in trouble, because there are some people who try to say that people like me are the ones that are trying to change Africans' views about Auston, when in reality it's Auston himself, it's his own mouth. And remember, this is not the first time his mouth got him in trouble. I mean, the reason he is in Africa is because he got kicked out of Brazil, and Brazil kicked him out because he offended Brazilians. His mouth offended Brazilians. So his mouth has always been getting him in trouble, and I don't think it would stop getting him in trouble, because I don't think this guy has learned his lesson. And of course, the difference is, I mean, I have said this a lot of times. When he is offending Africans, he is offending us either intentionally, if not intentionally. He doesn't care if we are offended, right? I mean, like I said earlier, when Africans told him they were offended with that offensive tweet, he didn't apologize. Instead, he doubled down, he tripled down. And since then, he has been posting several tweets that are offensive to Africans, right? Saying we are scammers and cheaters and all kinds of stuff. But when he offended Brazil, he didn't mean it, right? He didn't mean to offend Brazil. And when they told him they were offended, he apologized. He apologized in 2 different languages, right? He apologized in English, he apologized in Portuguese. But with us, it's almost like, yeah, I don't care if you are offended. In fact, I want you to be offended. And so here I am saying the same thing that offends you, and I'm gonna say it, on a live, with everybody watching. And the difference in treatment is because of how he values black people versus how, I mean, at least African people versus how he values Brazilians. He values Brazilians, he doesn't value Africans. And he doesn't care. And like I told you guys, this is a new thing, right? Him not caring about Africa. I mean, he probably never cared about Africa. I don't think Austin likes Africa, but at least, you know, for the last 5 months or so, he was pretending to like us. But now that there is no more pretension, because he doesn't have to continue pretending, because it looks like Brazil is ready to take him back, and you know, Africa is no use for him anymore, right? Africa was like a refugee, right, where, you know, he was, you know, he was exiled from his spiritual birthplace, you know, spiritual homeland, Brazil, and he was in Africa, you know, exiled from his homeland. And now that the homeland is ready to take him back, he's like, oh, I couldn't, you know, show my true feeling for Africa and Africans, which is absolute disdain, absolute not, you know, absolute not liking, you know. I don't know if that's the correct term to use, but it's obvious that, you know, he has a lot of disdain for Africans, especially African women, and he wants us to know, you know, not only does he have disdain for us, he wants us to know it. And yeah, and that is, you know, getting him in trouble. And I don't even know why this guy doesn't wait until he is in Brazil, you know, before he started, you know, openly and blatantly attacking African girls. Because is he sure? I mean, Brazil might not take him back. And what if who's to say that, you know, once he went to Brazil, his mouth wouldn't get him in trouble again, and he would like to, you know, he would again need Africa to take him, you know, to give him a refugee. And guess what? At that time, the next time, Africa might not be as welcoming as it has been this time around, right? Because he is offending so many people, you know, so offending so many women of so many countries, you know, even the guys of so many countries, that he might not get the same welcome he has, you know, he has gotten so far. Next time around, it might not be the same thing. Anyways, let me know what you think. Like, comment, and subscribe. Thank you. Bye bye.